You do that in one of the other podcasts. So the first thing I just want to address before we do anything else is there's only going to be 2 camera angles tonight. We haven't got the zoom out one.
And a sighing dog.
And a sighing dog. They're ignoring me again.
Oh, poor Dexter. Uh-oh.
You had to spend all day with him.
No, I haven't spent all day with anybody. I've been all on my own.
Oh, no, you haven't. You've been at work.
Yeah, but I may as well have been on my own.
There's the water pump. Kids are upstairs sulking.
They're little buggers.
Mm.
We took them to the cinema on Friday and they can be little buggers there for 2 hours.
Isaac didn't seem that keen.
No, it's going out with your parents, isn't it?
Well, we've only booked the best seats, recliner, double sofa recliners, and Isaac sighed because he had to share one with his sister.
Let's have a lie down. I could not take my phone with me.
Yeah, but they still work independently.
So you're like sitting on a sofa, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh, we should get recliners when we go in the other room.
When? We just keep moving the junk from one room to another, then back and then back. We need to get on it this week, don't we?
Yeah. They do.
And not waste our time by recording podcasts and not having the microphones on.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a rookie mistake.
And now we've got to re-record.
It was really good, wasn't it, last time?
It was. I can't remember what we talked about.
No.
What was that thing we gave away? I can't remember what we gave away now. We did a free giveaway. Something really good, didn't we?
Yeah, but obviously...
I can't remember what it was now, so we can't do it again.
It was like, gold thing.
And do you remember that joke you told as well? That was hilarious.
All my jokes are hilarious.
I know. I can't remember what it was now, though, so we can't tell that joke again either.
No.
Oh, well. Winning lottery numbers for this weekend as well. You had them as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, because I
don't know what
to do in the town.
I don't know what we've done with them now, so we haven't even got the winning lottery numbers to give out to people anymore. Oh, well. I guess we'll just have to talk about mental health or something then.
Go on then.
So in the podcast, not last night, because we're actually recording on Wednesday.
Not Sunday.
Not Sunday like we normally would. One of the main things I think that was discussed was, well, the 2 main things that the people wanted us to talk about was dealing with bereavement and workplace trauma.
Yeah.
Now, I know quite a bit about workplace trauma.
And I know a little bit about bereavement.
So we're probably the best 2 people to do this then.
Yay. We are like experts of our field.
So, workplace trauma then. Shall we start with that?
Yeah, go on then.
You start.
No, you go first.
Okay, so...
You didn't take much convincing. I suppose it depends on what your class as work-based trauma. I think some jobs, people are more exposed to trauma than other jobs. People are quite desensitized to it.
Do you think that... So, like, example... I just had a conversation with myself in my head then, and then I say example for something that I hadn't said out loud.
Yeah.
Do you think that people that work in non-traumatic roles are more susceptible to being traumatized than people who do work in traumatic roles?
I don't know, because I suppose it depends on your definition of traumatic.
So
you could work in I don't know, like be a London banker in the stock exchange and lose someone's money, and that would be quite traumatic and distressing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's not actually physically seeing something awful or being involved in something threatening, but I guess it's the psychological impact of something on a person. That's the trauma.
Yeah, but I'm saying like regular jobs like what we know. So let's say, for example, so I've worked in the prison service and I can open a cell door and there's someone sat there with their veins hanging out because they've slashed themselves up and there's fucking blood everywhere and you just deal with it. Don't particularly find it that traumatic. However, because it could be that could be regular occurrence.
No, but
However, if you worked at Tesco's and you worked in the stockroom and found someone like that would be significantly traumatic.
and I guess the first time that happened to you, that would probably be traumatic. But maybe the 20th time, you run a little bit on autopilot.
I remember the first ever restraint I did in the prison service. And I'm pretty tough, pretty resilient. I didn't like prisoners. And this guy got bent up legitimately. I'm not saying that people ever got restrained non-legitimately in the prison service, because I don't know if legally I could say that. But the first restraint I had to do, I can remember the two people that I did the restraint with. I'm not going to use their names. And I remember the prisoner, but I'm not going to use his name either. And we had him face down on the floor in his cell. I was on his head. So, like,
Yeah.
I was on his head.
So you had control of the head.
Yeah, I had control of the head. But we're on the floor, so I'm protecting his head from the floor. And the two other officers, one of them was a senior officer and one of them was just a regular officer, were twisting him up, bending his arms, wrist locks, compliance. And this guy was screaming and crying in pain. And I remember thinking at the time, as I was holding this guy's head, I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like
Not pleasant, is it?
seeing this human on the floor in pain at our hands. And he was a scumbag. He was a scumbag.
He wouldn't have been restrained for no reason.
Oh no, he was restrained because he fucking had a pop at the SO, swung at him, so he got dropped. Got restrained for the safety of everybody around.
So it's reasonable and proportionate.
It was reasonable. It was reasonable, necessary, and proportionate. And he was fighting when he was restrained. So we used pain compliance as legally we're allowed to. But even then, being the one that was inflicting not unnecessary. What's the word when someone doesn't want something? He didn't want us to cause him pain. You know, like when you're doing jiu-jitsu, it's expected that you're going to cause someone pain. But he didn't want that.
It was unwanted.
And I think that's quite traumatic. It's causing unwanted distress. That's the word I'm looking for. Unwanted distress to someone.
It's a consequence, though, isn't it?
It is a consequence.
If he'd been a con long enough, he would have known what the consequences were.
Yeah. I don't think he did throw a thought. I think he spat. I think he spat in the officer's face.
In my experience, some people want to be restrained because they want to feel comfort, they want to feel touched, they want to feel...
Resi homes were like that. A lot of residential kids would kick off to get physicality because they wanted to be held.
Sad, isn't it?
It is sad. That was the most traumatic. Restraint. Restraining prisoners, after the first couple of times, you get used to it.
Restraining children.
But restraining children, restraining 13...
You didn't use pain compliance for children?
No, absolutely not, no. Restraining 13, 14-year-old girls when you're a 30-year-old man stacked. Do you know what I mean? I was in pretty good shape. But, so I instructed Team Teach, which was a young person's therapeutic crisis intervention. And it was 95% verbal, 5% physical. And I prided myself on, we don't put hands on. And I did restrain some kids because sometimes you had to, but unlike the prison service where they didn't have to do very much to get restrained, a young person would really have to be putting somebody in danger or putting themselves in danger. And I think 90% of the times I've restrained a young person is not because I felt in danger, it was because they were putting themselves or somebody else in danger.
Really immediate risk to self or others.
Yeah. I remember this girl coming out of her room and she had been... We've got time to tell a quick story.
Yeah.
She had been hounded. There was 4 girls in the house, and one of them was a proper hardened street criminal from London. And she lived in the house. She kept herself to herself. She was polite and friendly to staff. She never tried to run off. She was a nice girl. And the other 3 were all chavvy little townies. And they used to give her so much grief. And then one New Year's Eve, they put this note under a door. And it was basically an anagram of CUNT. And it said, C, So it said C, and then it said C, you are a cunt. You definitely are a cunt. N, something else about being one of them, and T the same. And they put it under a door, and she just flipped. She lost it. She come out of a room, and she went, "Where are the other three?" I wasn't on this night. Where are the other three? Oh, they're in Charmaine's room, whatever her name was. And she walked into the room. She picked up this girl's skateboard. She walked up to one of them and just went smash. Just smashed this skateboard around this girl's head. Snapped it in half. Like the girl's head was all out here. The other two fled, went hid in their room. Staff all come, all the restraint. So that was New Year's Eve. I went back in on the 2nd of January, and they were still restraining her every day. She was saying, "I'm not going to stop until I get to these two girls." And they were in their rooms, and they'd staffed up. Staff were taking food to their doors, and she fought for 4 days. Every time,
Push the buttons, didn't
yeah. Every time you would restrain her, and then she was smart, she was savvy. You'd restrain her. She'd go, "Okay, I'm not fighting anymore," because she knew. Since she said that, we had to let go. You'd let go, smack. Just smack you, and then run and try and get to the room that the other girls were in so she could attack them. In the end, they had to ship her out because nothing they could do with her. She was a handful.
She crossed the line.
Yeah, she just snapped. But the other girl that she'd hit, the one that she had assaulted, that was fine. It was all done. The girl she hit with the skateboard, she was fine with her. Paid her back. Now the other two need it. That was insane. I don't think I've ever restrained anyone as much as I've restrained her. I've got a chipped tooth. That's how that tooth got chipped. She hit me with a mirror. God, that was rough, that was.
That's not traumatising for you. Well, I suppose it's not pleasant, but it's not trauma.
It's not, but that same girl later, I prevented her from stabbing herself in the neck.
Mm.
And that's not nice.
No.
Because I thought she was going to. Oh. And if I hadn't have got to her, she would have done.
I've been in a few hairy situations like that when I worked in like crisis intervention, taking that 1 o'clock in the morning phone call from someone drunk, and you can hear metal clanking around the teeth.
Mm. Yeah, it's
that's more traumatic than anything, or someone telling you that they're walking up to the loft, and you can hear steps, and you can hear like material being ripped and tied, and
they're making nooses. Yeah,
your brain fills in all the gaps, and then trying to work out who it is, and then the phone going dead, and then you're thinking,
fuck.
Yeah, it's unpleasant.
I know that she was the reason I left in the end, that girl, because I honestly thought that day she was going to stab herself in the neck, and I can still see it. I remember restraining her, and I remember the girl that come in, we was 2-1 in her, and there was me and another woman was on the 2-1, and I was restraining her, and the other woman had just frozen, didn't know what to do. And another girl that lived in the house come and took the knife off her. And then this girl was notorious for knife crime in London. She took the knife off her like that, and she stood there, she looked at it, she went, "I don't want that." She quickly dropped it as if to say, "Please don't restrain me as well." But she proper lost it after that incident, and I cut her dressing gown cord off her, and that was probably one of the worst, where she got the dressing gown cord around her neck. She was pulling it tight, but her dressing gown was coming open. She had nothing underneath. She's only 14. So we're trying to wrap her up while stopping her from ligaturing.
Yeah, ligations are horrible.
It is at any time. I don't want to make it sound like it's not a problem with adults, but it's not nice when you're cutting kids down.
No.
I've cut kids down and I've cut adults down, and I know you have. I know you've been in situations where you've had to cut adults down, and it's not nice.
No, it's not nice. It's not nice. And you always know the ones that meant it and the ones that were nearly there, because they tend to lose their bowels, and they tend to all the veins in their face burst and in their eyes burst.
Yeah.
But the last one I had, I managed to get back. But yeah, bluer than a bloody rye being a berry.
Did you bring her back?
Yeah. Brought a few back over the years.
So that's the kind of, that can cause long-term trauma, I think.
Yeah. But then it's about having that hot debrief. Like, it's about, I suppose, like, I was lucky I had a good team. So that hot debrief, that get everyone, like, who's involved now. You know, the there's all sorts of things, but who's here? Is anyone hurt? Is everyone okay? And like trying to work out, the quiet ones tend to be the ones that aren't okay, and you've got to give them a bit more time. And the ones that are crying and the ones that are expressing their emotions, they're the ones that are probably all right because they're getting it out. It's the ones that don't talk about it. And that hot debrief to make sure that everyone's had opportunity to talk about what went well or what didn't go well or what could be done differently, but then following that up down the line and making sure that's done formally around the table so people can understand, because people start to blame themselves. What if I didn't do this, or what if I did something differently, or in terms of their shift, or
it's weird, and it's
sort of sliding doors in the right place at the right time. What the lady, the last one that I found hanging, she wasn't even due on observation.
Was it in a boiler room or a laundry room?
A laundry room.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
It was many years ago, that one, but she wasn't due. She wasn't due an observation, but just something in my gut thought something's not right. And awful as it was, a lady had asked me to take her to the toilet, and I said, yeah, actually, just give me a sec. And if I took her to the toilet, that lady would be here now.
No, she'd be dead.
Yeah.
God, and you think like, it's weird to think about it now. We're doing this for a podcast and for people, and it's giving me a little bit of a chill thinking about it. You think of all the situations we've been in and all the people potentially that we've already saved and the ones we haven't. I've known kids that are no longer with us because they've taken the wrong path or they've done the wrong thing, or do you know what I mean? That massive car crash there was a couple of years ago where a couple of ours were killed, and you think, I'd worked with that kid.
Yeah, that bothered you at the time. That really affected you, didn't it? You were upset for him and the people.
I was, yeah.
Because he was a good kid.
He was, and people. He obviously wasn't a good kid. He was a shitbag, to be honest. But he was a nice kid, and
all kids can be shitbags.
Yeah, he was likable. He was a real likable kid, a real likable character.
They're not had the right role models and the right start and the right path pushed to them. They take their own path, don't they?
It's so many aspirations. He used to tell me how he wanted to be a professional rugby player, and he was really good, and he just didn't have the right start, and he made the wrong choices, and I think he was let down by the system. I think there was some people that let him down. I think we could have saved him, but you can't save everyone, can you?
You can't save them from making unwise decisions and unwise choices, can you?
No, and I think so. That's what I'm saying. We're pretty hardened to stuff, whereas if you're a shopkeeper who's never had to deal with anything like that before, someone robs your shop, that can traumatise you for life.
But then I suppose I'm quite tough. I'm quite mentally resilient. But if someone claps on me in the street and was like, or run over in front of me, that would probably traumatise me. I can think of incidents in the past where I have had an old man claps in the street on me, and I thought, what do I do? So I think it's that feeling of, I think the trauma is a feeling of being overwhelmed by not being able to sort it out, not being able to resolve it. I think that's where the trauma comes from, isn't it?
Yeah, whereas, like, if I have to deal with an incident at work, I can just deal with it like that. My incident management and crisis intervention is probably my strongest point, because that's what I've always done. Do you know what I mean? But if it was something that wasn't at work, that was outside of my expertise, I don't know how I would cope.
No.
I like to think I'd be pretty good in a crisis, no matter what the crisis was, because I know how to deal with a crisis.
It depends on how close it is to you, though, doesn't it?
I know when you decided you was going to give birth to Daisy Ray on the toilet, I was stood at the top of the stairs going, I'm panicking!
I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do!
And now I'm like, I need to push.
I was like, don't push!
I can't help it.
Like,
Paul, yeah, but you left me in a house with a sleeping 2-year-old and with a baby crowning.
Yeah, but I did the right thing. I went and got the nearest healthcare professional. the next door neighbour who was a healthcare support worker in A&E, but I thought she's a fucking nurse. I'll go get her.
Not the woman 6 doors up who actually worked.
Was a midwife.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember standing at the top of the stairs going, I'm panicking.
I remember pushing and making a noise, and you went, shh, you're awake, Isaac.
Yeah, shush, you're awake, Isaac.
Fucking shush. Who are you telling to shush? But yeah, I found that quite traumatic. And the ambulance crew found that quite traumatic. Because that's not something they come across every day. And they were expecting, because of how the phone call came through, premature labour, middle of the night, no midwife, not prepared.
Yeah.
They came with the resource.
They think the worst.
As
you sat there cuddling a fucking baby on the bed.
Yeah, they were expecting a dead baby, weren't they? That's what they were expecting. But yeah, she was just quick.
She was
2-minute precipitate labour.
Done.
Out.
Gone.
Bullet.
Yeah.
Tea and crumpets for 8 o'clock.
I remember you being downstairs at 8 o'clock in the morning saying, "Oh, look at the state of this kitchen," loading the dishwasher. It's like, I think we just need to take it easy now.
You gave birth 3 hours ago.
Yeah. Oh,
it was a rough old night, wasn't it?
It was.
Was that Paul? Like, no, I'm asleep.
It still wasn't the roughest night we had in that 2-year period, though, of Isaac deciding he was going to be awake all night, every night for the first 2 years of his life.
I waked.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Bing, 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 bing. I'm binging.
Bing, bing. Ah. So,
Mummy, Daddy, I is waked. At the end of his cot. We kept him in a cot till he was nearly 3 because like a little cage.
12 years old. Can I come out yet? So, I suppose the two ways to look at it is there's the people who are used to dealing with trauma and deal with trauma on a regular basis in their work life. And there's the people who never have to deal with trauma and then a traumatic incident happens. Is the management of their trauma the same?
Well, I guess you can have, like, you were a hardened prison officer, weren't you? Like, come across, but there were a couple of incidents that traumatized you, not in terms of like post-traumatic stress, but in terms of you needed to speak to someone professionally about how to manage that.
So that was just other staff.
but at the time you had the hot debrief, so
yeah.
But then afterwards, I suppose, like the therapy or whatever it was they did, that's the debrief, isn't it? Like understanding that situation, what happened, who played what role, what your role was in it, could have anything been done differently, and it's just kind of trying to formulate in your mind what happened and why.
It wasn't even talking about that. It was about helping me understand that my role in all of that couldn't have affected, or could it have affected, could I have done anything different? If I had done something different, it wasn't even about other people or who did what. It was all about my management of them situations and in my own head, working through them. And still to this day, like, you think about stuff, I tell the same stories. I tell the same stories to people when I talk about the prison service, and I'll probably never tell them stories on these podcasts or cameras because I don't know the legality of some of them, if I'm honest. But when I'm face to face with people and they ask me about the prison service, I tell them the same stories. I can picture the prisoners now. I can remember the incidents like it was yesterday. I remember what officers were involved, who did what their roles were. So is that trauma, the fact that you can remember it that vividly?
It's just a really vivid memory, isn't it? So it was a big event. You remember your wedding day vividly. That wasn't traumatic, was it? It was just a big event in your life.
No, but you don't remember everyone's role and what everyone said and did. And I couldn't even tell you some of the names of some of the people that were there. I couldn't.
No, it was a long day. I guess when you're in a heightened state of arousal, all your senses are heightened, aren't they?
We never got to that point. We went to sleep really early.
No.
Oh, you're doing something else.
When something horrible happens, you become quite hypervigilant, don't you? Fight and flight kicks in.
Is it normal to miss that?
You do get like adrenaline junkies, don't you?
I miss all that.
You do get people that jump out of planes and do all sorts of to get that thrill.
I miss physicality. I miss restraining people. I don't miss that feeling of it's going to kick off.
Thump on the nose.
Oh, yeah, I remember that day. I remember that day as clear as anything.
Maybe that's why I've done like jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and stuff. If you want some physicality, I can sort you out.
Tonight?
I don't know about tonight. I need to go get freshened up.
Need to brush my teeth. My breath's honking.
All right.
So you didn't answer my question. Is the dealing with trauma, or does it depend on who you are, what your role was, what the trauma is?
I suppose it's all individual, isn't it? And the impact. What the impact is on your life now.
But it's the same as what we've always said, isn't it? You need to deal with it. You need to talk to someone about it.
Yeah. If it's just something, I mean, it's like anything. Something horrible happens. It's likely to be in the forefront if you're thinking for a little while. But if it's persisting and it's all you can think about, it's quite normal. I know we were involved in a cardiac arrest at work, and that was quite traumatic because I'd never been involved in a cardiac arrest like that before, and you expect it to be like you see on ER, do you know what I mean, pumping on someone's chest and couple of defib pads and a boom boom and back and or a flat line. So it's not attractive.
No,
it's not attractive at all. You know, when you can hear people's ribs actually physically breaking under your hands, and they've urinated themselves, they've been incontinent, and they're vomiting at the same time, and you're pumping their chest and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's horrible. The noises that make.
Gurgles and the...
Yeah, absolutely awful. And the colour of somebody, and quite often people have their eyes open, so it's just quite haunting. So yeah. And a lady that I worked with, she really struggled with it. And she ended up taking some time off, and she had to have some therapy. But she was just absolutely convinced. She was frightened of walking down the street. She was convinced that people were going to just collapse in front of her, and she was going to be the one that had to deal with it. And that's a true phenomenon, that people can be scared that it's going to happen again. And she had, 5 or 6 sessions with someone, and she was fine.
I remember some screws though that got to the point where they didn't want to restrain, where they didn't want to put hands on anymore. I've done that. We don't need to put hands on it. That's just not. It's not. Sometimes it's not worth the paperwork, but I don't think it always was that. I think sometimes it got to the point where it was just too much. It was just too much, and that's trauma, isn't it? When you get to that kind of
burnout, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I suppose you got to seek some kind of help for that. And I think, looking from my perspective,
it's quite often why you get people that are you see, don't you, quite often, like, I don't know, the prison service, they have their own social clubs. I know the one in the city, they used to use the hospital social club.
Yeah.
They often will socialise.
One in the city, just in case no one don't want to say which city is near to where we live, even though everybody knows where we live.
But so they tend to stay in groups, don't they? They tend to socialise with the people in the same jobs. I think you find it with police officers, you find it with firemen, you find it with nurses, you find it with all sorts of professions that are involved with potentially life and death situations or traumatic, difficult jobs. Tend to mix with people that do, because they understand. It's like an unwritten or unspoken language, isn't it? It's like people just know.
Yeah. And even now, so one of our subscribers has worked in the justice system somewhere, and we have a little nod to each other digitally, but you just know there's that, we know what it's like. And one of my friends is a police officer in Australia, and when we speak, there's still that we know what it was like. We know what we was like, and you still do have that, and even squaddies and soldiers. When I met up recently with some old army friends, and you're back like that again. Like there's no,
because it's that shared camaraderie around a shared understanding around shared difficulties, and people within them jobs might not have experienced the same challenges or problems, but they know what it's like to have adversity within your job role.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the gallows humour comes in, isn't it?
Yeah. There's no sometimes, even with me and you, there's nothing that's off the table, is there? There's no joke.
I don't know. You've said to me sometimes a bit harsh.
There's no
joke.
I'm
worse than you.
There's no joke that's off the table, though, is there? There's no cancel culture in our house. We say some stuff that if we said it for real in public, awful. It would be awful and we'd lose our jobs. Wouldn't we?
Wow. I suppose it's the intent behind it, isn't it? It's if we meant it.
Yeah.
A lot of the times. Like, there hasn't been many suicides this month, or there's been train strikes.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Singing The First Cut Is the Deepest to myself, Harp.
I did that once.
I knew you'd say that.
On the roof.
Yeah.
You know, the first cut is the deepest. Oh, stop it. And then it gets in your head for the day. The worst one I did, because I sing a lot when I'm walking around.
No. You're not going to tell the story of the worst one that you did.
Which one?
The one about the scabies.
Oh, that's the one I was going to do.
Oh, is that the one? Oh, go on then. I thought you were going to tell a different one.
Yeah, no. We had a student.
Bear in mind he's dead now, by the way.
Yeah, but I didn't do it.
Go on, tell the story.
Not my fault. So we had a student on the ward, and she was following me around like a little sheep this day, because that's what students do. And I'd even been to the toilet, and she stood behind me, and I was like, "Look, I'm just gonna go to the toilet. It's fine."
Yeah, I'm having a shit. You're gonna pass me the toilet roll.
Just go sit in the office. And she was following me around, and one of my staff had come on first thing in the morning and said, I need to go home. I've got itchy hands, and I've got these lines. Do you think it's scabies? And I was like, yeah, get off my ward. Get out. Be gone. Unclean. Because scabies is really contagious.
A male member of staff.
Yeah.
It was a male member of staff, and the student was female.
Yeah. So she was following me around all day, and I was like, oh, I just itch. Oh, it just makes me itch. Oh, because she'd been there when he'd said. And I was like, and then I started singing the song from The Simpsons. It's the itchy and scratchy show. And then that got in my head, and I was just singing it all day. It's the itchy and scratchy show. So 12 hours later, this student's crying. I'm like, sure. And then one of the other nurses went, no, you've upset her. I was like, well, what have I done? She'd been knocking him off on the side, and I didn't know. So he'd gone home with scabies. She wasn't sure whether she'd got it or not. She's following me around like a little sheep all day, and I'm picking on him for being a scabby fucker.
The scabby baby. So he was referring to him as the scabby baby.
Yeah. Oh, and he did have scabies. And it was, yeah. So I had to offer a bit of an apology. I was like, I'm very, very sorry. I didn't realise my audience.
Although that's not quite as bad as the time that you accused a student of being ignorant because she never answered you.
Oh, and she was deaf.
And then she was deaf.
That's a fucking ignorant cow. She never answers. And she shut that door let that door shut in my face when I was walking up the corridor.
She must have heard me coming. Actually, she wouldn't have done.
I worked with a woman. This is awful. I've had loads. If there was a trophy for putting your foot in it, I would win it. But I worked with a woman who was, I don't know if you call them victims or survivors, or she was a product of thalidomide. So thalidomide was a drug that was really effective for anti-sickness, that they gave a lot of women many years
In
ago.
70s and 80s, wasn't it?
No, before that, it was sort of 50s, 60s. But they
Oh,
gave,
was it?
Yeah, they gave to a lot of women that were pregnant for morning sickness, but they just didn't realise that the side effect of that would be chlamydia. So she was quite fortunate. She had all of her limbs were normal, apart from one, which was deformed. But a cracking woman. But I remember her saying to me, I was quite new as well. I was a support worker at the time. She was like, "You're going to put the kettle on?" I was like, "What's up with your hands?" And then, as soon as you say something, and I was like, and she went, "Are you going?" "Yeah, I'll put the kettle on."
I'll do it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I'm sat there thinking, "Oh, fucking hell, I've only worked here a fortnight, and I've just picked on the woman that's been here forever." But yeah.
But you have to be able to joke about shit like that, though, don't you? Because if that's what we're saying, the gallows humour.
Wow.
You need to be able to joke.
She was like, "We need to go into restraint." And I was like, "What side?" "Hang on, I know what side. Come on, swap." Because I got to know her after a bit of time, got to know her really well, and I knew that she couldn't do the right because she had no strength.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the time when you're used to that kind of thing, and that's why I think I've struggled quite a bit in civilian jobs, because a lot of civilians don't get that kind of sense of humour.
Well, a lot of civilians don't find it funny, do they? And I think in those kind of circumstances, that woman with her hand, like she was an older woman. She'd had that hand all her life. She worked in mental health care all her life. Do you know what I mean? There's far worse as she's heard than what I've given her. And she knew what her challenges were. She knew what her barriers were, and she accepted them, and she adapted her life around it. And me saying to her, "What's wrong with your hands?" If she was a bit brighter, she would have said this.
Yeah.
Or come with a witty comeback.
And that's the thing, like, you think when you've worked in the prison service, you've heard everything. Everything that you can be called, every threat that can be made, threats to your family, threats to your colleagues, threats to everything. You're high, you're short, you're bald, you're fat. Did you get that walk with a uniform? That used to be the one. Oh, look at you, you think you're hard? They issue you that walk with a uniform. Anything they could say to you. And I've known people in the prison service that have had wreaths sent to them with their kids' names on.
It's shocking, isn't it?
You get to the front door and your wreath's there, and it's from prisoner such and such.
That'd put you off a bit, wouldn't it?
With your wife's name on. So when you've been through
flowers delivered,
when you've been through that, and that's the gallows humour.
I never get delivered flowers.
I'll have them. Thank you.
Where's my vase?
From Paddy and.
Aww.
That's what it was. But when you've lived that, and then you're working with people who think they can give you a hard time, like, right, that's it. I'm referring you to the senior manager. Oh, well, please don't. I'll sit down in a room with the CEO and have a face-to-face conversation with him. I'm not afraid of sitting down and talking something out with anyone.
Well, they're only people, aren't they? They all pull the same face when they're having a poo.
Well, I don't know. I've never been there when he's done a poo, but
yeah.
So that covers trauma. Have we got time? What time does that say on that camera?
36:26.
You think we ought to leave it at that?
36, 30, 31, 32.
Yeah, okay. I know how seconds work.
Oh dear.
Yeah, one comes after the other, and then another one comes, and it just keeps going like that.
Normally I'll come twice, and then you come after.
Yeah. 3 times if you're really lucky. I'm glad you said that. It makes me sound like a good husband, doesn't it? Not just a pump done.
Pump done.
Wank squirt.
Oh.
Anyway.
That's one for the wank tank.
Yeah. I'll let you do that later. I think we ought to wrap it up there. Maybe we could talk about grief another day.
Grief, I can give you grief.
Or do you want to talk about grief now?
No, we can talk about bereavement.
Yeah, what, now or another time?
No, another time. We can do that.
We'll talk about bereavement and that another time, because we did cover it briefly the other night, didn't we? Not last night, because it's not Sunday when it should be Sunday. And due to technical issues, we're having to re-record the podcast.
Because no one can hear me.
And it's got to drop in 11 hours, and I've got to process it and edit it and do all the stuff yet.
And you've got a busy day tomorrow.
And I have got a busy day tomorrow. But I can have it done in a couple of hours. It's not a problem. I might have half hour before bed. Get it all set up, ready to go. Yeah, so that's it. Tonight, if anybody's watching this before, I think it's 8:30 tonight, we have got Patrick Chester, who is a former TEDx speaker. He's been on 200 podcasts worldwide.
Really? All English-speaking countries?
I'm assuming so, yeah. I mean, it might all be in America. You might have been on 200 podcasts in America.
Yeah, and boasts worldwide.
Or 200, 900 and 199 in America and one in Australia, worldwide. So he's going to be on tonight. And if you're watching this after Thursday the
6th,
if you're watching it after Thursday the 6th at 8:30, go on to the live section and have a look. Because it'll be in there, hopefully, if he turns up, which I think he will.
And then, what day is it you doing the gym in your pants?
I'm not, unless I get to 750 subscribers.
Oh.
I'm not doing it in my pants. I'm doing it in Lycra.
Do you want me to help you on Monday? Is it Monday you're doing it? It's bank holiday, though, isn't it? You got anyone
Easter
in the gym?
Monday. I might tell Charlie that we're not open.
Okay. Because I'm thinking I could come in and do some demos with you if you want me to do. I can put my Lycra on and help.
Would you?
Yeah, because I'm off, so it's not.
Well, you'll be off every night that I do it.
No, I know, but I'm off all week, so my time's not as pressured.
Oh, okay, so you can grace me with your presence because you're not as busy.
Well, you know, ordinarily it's £30 an hour, but I'll do it for free on Monday, being as I've got enough hours to charge.
Ordinarily, I would charge all the people that are going to be watching £5 each.
Would you?
To do an online digital class.
You could do it for free.
But I'm going to do it for free because I like my subscribers. And I'm a kind, nice person.
You've done loads of good deeds this week.
I know, yeah.
You did some good deeds yesterday. You let the woman go in front of you in the Aldi. You gave some kickboxing gloves away to a kickboxing club for some kids that maybe aren't as advantaged as other kids there, so they can all participate. And what was the third thing? Oh, you got my tyre fixed for me today. And then you did something else. What else did you do yesterday?
Well, I don't need to boast about all the good things I've done.
I know, but it makes up for some of the bad things you've done.
Like what?
And nothing. Like
restraining people.
Yeah, it's like karmic balance, isn't it?
I gave the girl on YouTube a bit of a boost.
Oh, that was right. Yeah. There was a few people that went and said hello to her, weren't there?
Yeah.
And told her to keep her chin up, and I think today she's been on and she's seen all the comments. It sounds like it's given her a bit of
yeah, she's replied to all the comments, which is good.
A boost, so that's nice.
So if you're watching this, you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because if we get to 750 before Monday, which will be a fucking miracle if we do, but if we do, I will do the live gym session.
I'll do it in my pants.
In my Lycra Captain America outfit, because I haven't got the full Iron Man I thought I had.
Oh, no.
I've only got the bottoms.
Do you want me to buy you it?
Well, if we can, but I don't think we'll get to 750, so I don't think it's going to matter.
Okay.
We've got 179 to go.
Have you got two? We could do like... I've got a Wonder Woman outfit at work. Should I bring that home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if we don't get there. Right, we're going to have to go because I need the toilet. So, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment.
Oh, is that one?
Yeah. And we'll see you on the live tonight. Achieve your goals.